Hello, everybody. I am Amy Blackstone, Director of Maine New Leadership at the Margaret Chase Smith Policy Center at the University of Maine. I'm so pleased today to be talking with two outstanding leaders, Michelle Kidd-Lee and Flavia Oliveira. Flavia is an alum of our program, and Michelle was our keynote speaker in 2018. We find ourselves in a particular historical moment today that provides both challenges and opportunities for leaders, and we thought we'd check in with a couple of our favorite leaders to hear from them about what it's like to lead in this period of our history. In just a moment, I'll turn things over to Flavia, but let me share just a little bit about her and about Michelle. Michelle Kidd-Lee is the Chief Innovation Officer and member of the Management Committee at leading entertainment and sports agency, Creative Artists Agency, or CAA. She's long been a driving force for the agency's diversity and inclusion initiatives, helping to establish its short and long-term strategies to ensure a more equitable workplace. Kidd-Lee is a founding member of the Time's Up movement, and in 1995, she founded the CAA Foundation, which uses the resources of the entertainment and sports communities to create positive social change. Michelle was born, raised, and received a public education in rural Maine, and today she lives in California with her partner and two children. In 2018, as I mentioned, Michelle was the keynote speaker at the University of Maine's New Leadership Program. And in that same year, Flavia Oliveira participated and is now an alum of Maine New Leadership. She graduated from Thomas College with a degree in political science in 2019. Flavia has 4 kids and is an alum of the Maine State Parent Ambassador Program. She's worked with Maine Equal Justice and was recently re-elected for her second term on the Waterville City Council. She hopes to enter the University of Maine School of Law this fall. And for those of you who are listening and watching, I'll let you know that we're having a little bit of a technical glitch. Michelle is here and will be joining us on video just as soon as she's able. But I will turn off my video camera and let Flavia take it over from here.
Hello. Can you all
Hi,
hear me?
Flavia.
Hi. Michelle, first of all, I would like to really thank you for your time being here, especially under the circumstances that we are right now. So I have a couple of questions for you. I wanted to start off by, because I took a look at your bio, and I see that you did a big move from Maine to California. And some of the questions that we had from our live line, they asked, what is the process that you did to move? And like, did you consult your family, or did you kind of go with your gut instinct? So how was that process like, moving from Maine to California, from where you were then into where you are now?
Great. So can I first just say, I'm so sorry, everyone, that that I'm not on video at the moment. Anybody who is a Mainer can get this. The power literally went out 1 minute as we were into this process of getting started today. So, and unlike a snow day or wind where the ice is like had a tree take down a power line, I'm in Los Angeles, California, and Southern California now experiences rolling blackouts because of the power company shutting down lines because of forest fires. So it is always Mother Nature reminding us who's in charge. So forgive me for not being here, but if my video never comes back on, just imagine that, I'm gorgeous. So there you go. Let's just start there. But not as gorgeous because I saw Flavia. And Flavia, by the way, who what I did see was that you were wearing the Michelle Obama turtleneck from yesterday. So I'm amazed that you were able to pull off your fashion choice that quickly after the inauguration yesterday. So first and foremost, thank you. And I just wanted to explain to everybody. So to answer your question directly, I was 23 years old, and when I decided to make a change, I grew, as Amy had said, I grew up outside of Bangor and in a little town called Orrington, and went to Brewer High. I'm a Brewer witch. I then went to Maine and graduated from USM and lived in Portland for 5 years. And one of the things that was very clear to me all the while growing up was that I wanted to experience other ways of living. And with complete candor, at the time, it was 1988 when I graduated from college. And I really needed other perspectives. Back then, I felt like a lot of how I was living, it was a pretty homogenous environment, and it was also it was pretty restrictive in many ways, and I really wanted to branch out. So I didn't really consult my family. I just sort of told my family that I was going. And then I think the other part was I'd had, on a personal note, I'd had some real tragedies that had taken place, and people that I was very close to in life had died very suddenly. And I was in a sort of state of personal crisis and needed to make a change. So it wasn't very thought out, quite frankly, and it was just a gut instinct of I need to try something different right now.
All right,
and by the way, I gave myself 5 years. I was like, oh, I'll be in California for 5 years, and then I'll come home, and that was 30 years ago.
It kind of sounds similar to my story, because when I came from Rhode Island, and that's the same thing. I said, oh, I'll stay here for about 2 years until I'm done with school. And before you know it, it's 5 years later and I'm still here.
It really is weird how that happens. Yep.
Yes. And so another question that I have for you, it's about how has the events of 2020 impacted you and your organization, and how has 2020 shaped your leadership?
I would say 2020 has been the most challenging year in all ways. I think, let's see, to my business. So the Creative Artists Agency, as Amy was saying, it's a talent agency and it's in a media organization that we focus on actors, writers, musicians. So sort of think all of the sort of pop stars of the world and athletes, as well as businesses and so forth. And for us, we went into a gigantic shift, which was that, our live events business evaporated overnight. And that means all music touring and sport. Sport came back in sort of small pieces, as you all saw with Major League, both baseball, basketball, now football, et cetera. But very, very small. So we took we sort of lost a quarter of our revenue in 6 months. So that was really significant, and we had to make really hard decisions around. All of us took pay cuts in order to try to keep as many people as possible, as long as possible. And then when we hit sort of like the second wave of business not coming back, we had to do our first in the history of our company, the first round of layoffs and furloughs. So that was incredibly challenging and heartbreaking in that, we really have incredible fondness for each other. And so it was a brutal time to have to do that for the health and welfare of the company. I would say so that's just the economics and COVID. We stopped going into offices, and we have offices all over the world. Our major offices are Los Angeles, New York, Nashville, and London, and all of those offices had to be closed down. And so we all have been working remotely since March 12th. And we have no idea when we will be going back into offices. So we all had to adjust to that. And then from there, we're in the client service business. So that means running your business independently, as well as sort of keeping the culture together. All the while, I will add that the work around social justice, around around the United States in particular, has been at the forefront of everything that that I do, and so therefore being front and center on the cultural landscape of what's been happening with the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as issues pertaining to the election and now our new administration have all been front and center. So you know, if you look at the sort of hierarchy around needs, I would say our health first and foremost. So COVID, making sure that our people are healthy. And then the safety and security, all of those issues simultaneously, and then being able to plan. So there's not one aspect of the immediate needs of an individual that haven't been on the, competing for first place.
Okay. And also too, like being that balance, having that balance between your work life, your family life, and also the children being virtual. How did that impact you as being a mother?
So one of the things I always like to say whenever I'm asked this question to women is I ask that you always ask that to men whenever you're interviewing men. And I say that not to in any way, Fabia, put you back on your heels, but I just think as women, we need to hold all people accountable to what it is to parent and what it is to and to take care of ourselves and other people, because I think traditionally people have put that into a bucket. Now, I say that, and women are dealing with so much, frankly, so much more than men are. So I do think women need to talk to each other about these issues. So I don't want to say like, let's not talk about it. I'm just saying, let's open the aperture up so we're all talking about it, so that all people all parents, all colleagues are asked the same questions in that same sort of prioritization. So let me back up to say the other word that you used, which I think is challenging for me, is balance. And I hear it all the time, and I think that and again, I'm 54 years old. So my relationship to some of the language we use sometimes may be a little bit different, because I will say I'm really inspired by people that are younger than me having a much better relationship to the concept of what's called work-life balance. And I never have really had that. And when I say that, it's because I have what I would consider to be, a Yankee work ethic, which is in all aspects of life. So, when I'm in Maine, that can be about cutting and splitting, wood to get ready for the winter, or if it's, or it's doing laundry, or it's, or it's at my desk and working my job, or parenting, or anything else. I just sort of think it's the work ethic it's just all the time. So I don't know that I would say because balance to me means sort of 50-50, meaning, like, how do you equate the aspect of your two lives? What I've learned in COVID, and I am deeply, deeply grateful for, is that I have learned that I have to spend more time on the holistic nature of my life. I was far more compartmentalized. So I would, get up in the morning. Like, these are the practical things that I think you're asking. Fabia, please interrupt me. And I'm sorry we're not on video, because I could read your face cues a little bit better. And this is a conversation that's ultimately been on the phone. But I get up in the morning, I get up early, I exercise, at minimum for 20 minutes, on my best day, it's, 45 minutes on the exercise, exercising. Then it's, get up, kids, breakfast, and in COVID, like, get them online, get them ready. And then, and I've already reviewed the newspapers and sort of done that electronically before the day starts, and then my work day begins as soon as they're, officially, as soon as they're online, then I start my Zooms, and they'll go throughout the day, and I'll do my best now, though, to stop for a minute, make sure, check on how everything's going, get some food, whatever, and then back at it again until late. Now, when I went to an office, it was different. The early morning started the same, but then I would drive and drop my kid at school and then keep going on to the office. And so I was at the office by 7:30 in the morning, and I would come home at probably 7 or 7:30 at night, and then my kids are in high school. It's a different gig. When they were little, it was different, but then I would try to really shut off at night so that I could be present, and I tried to shut off on the weekends for the most part. But I wouldn't say that it was balanced. I would say that it was enormously full.
Okay. So I have a question. So how is it like balancing the new Zoom life? Like, for instance, like you said, you had a set schedule, you go in at 7 and you come out at 7 at night. But now it feels like with the Zoom schedule, what's your advice not to get like Zoom burned out?
So I think a couple of things. One, if you can stand up, the more you can stand up, the better. And as I just said that, I was sitting down, so now I'm going to stand up. And I think the other is, the ability to walk around. I think actually what I made a commitment to do coming out of the Christmas break is more phone calls and less Zoom. That Zoom is, I find, to be exhausting, and I think we needed it for the first round. It was really important that we were connected to each other visually. And again, I'm really sad that we are not able to do that here, because I think it's really important, because I haven't met everybody, and that's sad for me. But I think Zooms now are a little bit overrated, and I think phone calls can take care of a bunch of it. So that is, and my eyes feel better because I was getting all the headaches and everything else that everybody else was. And then the other part is shorten the sessions. Meetings don't need to be an hour. Most meetings can actually be a half an hour. And if you would normally schedule something that's an hour, try to have it be for half an hour. If it's a half an hour, you would normally schedule it for half an hour, see if you can do it for 15 minutes. I think giving people their time back is probably one of the most, the greatest gift you can give. So it's, unless you need the connection, unless you need the emotional connection, then that's a different story. Then you take as much time as you want or need. But if you don't, and it's really just about, sort of fact sharing or information share or, a work plan, then shorter is better. And that respect for one another, you're not cutting somebody short. You're just saying, I respect you so much. I'm going to give you the gift of your time.
Well, that's such a great tip. Yeah, especially in times like this, you feel like you need to be plugged into everything. But good point that you said, if you don't need it like to be emotionally connected, it really doesn't have to take that long. So my other question for you is what advice do you have for new leaders like myself, like that are emerging in a very unprecedented area, unprecedented time right now? So what is some of the advices that you have for us?
I would say the first thing for any new leader is to know yourself, to really spend the time to do your own personal work. And in that personal work is to make sure that you are, and look, that means like how have you done your own personal work in your own therapy? Like, do you know what your issues are? Can you identify them? Are you self-aware enough to know what your strengths and weaknesses are? And can you be humble enough to acknowledge them and also strong enough to work on them, because that's sort of life work. And that to me is the most important thing anyone can do to lead others, is to actually have a full understanding of themselves. So that's number one. Number two, I think all leaders need, now more than ever, and certainly going into the future, there has to be relentless curiosity about other people's experiences. Now, what do I mean by that? Again, I'm going to go back to Maine and it's not completely anymore, and thank God, but it is predominantly a homogenous environment. White folks are the dominant culture by far, and white folks need to. And you can't see me, but I am Caucasian, and I think it is critical to be curious about other people's life experiences, so that we as leaders, as enlightened leaders, are curious about what their experience is, and that we want to bring their experiences, and we'll be better off for bringing their experiences to the forefront. And part of what I'm saying may feel political to people, and I'm okay with that, especially since all that we've been through collectively as a nation over just the last 3 weeks. But as a leader, if you are not in deep touch with what is going on all sides, where are these people coming from that they just stormed the Capitol? Where is Amanda Gordon coming from when she gets up and is resplendent on that stage yesterday? Where is every single person that is watching that experience, internalizing how that is for them, and then coming to their own conclusions? What are everybody else's feelings around that? That is the key with being a leader right now, is not to just say, well, I think I know the right way, and so I'm going to go here. Instead, it's saying, I am respecting all people's backgrounds, be it faith, be it gender, be it orientation, be it race. I think I said that again. That all has to be part of what it means to be a great and strong leader now. And I think I believe that a lot of the people on here are women, and I think as women, I think we're very equipped for that. We're very equipped for that kind of leadership, and quite frankly, it's what the world needs. And if you study what are the countries that have been doing best during COVID, they're mostly led by women. And there's a reason for that, because we're not entrenched that something has to be a certain way. We are more flexible, we are more accommodating, and we are curious about other people's experiences.
Okay. Oh, and okay, so yeah, that was really great. That was really awesome. And also now bringing it back to what you said, to really to respect all people and all their backgrounds. So some of the events that happened in 2020, did that shape up some of this new leaders? Because you kind of give some points out. So I'm trying to think, is it because of the events that happened in 2020 that kind of created this new weight of leadership? Or was it something that was in the making, but we just saw it just happen in 2020?
I think I don't think 2020 is the magic. I think so let me back up. I think Donald Trump getting elected president was probably the start of a major shakeup in the ecosystem, which wasn't just 4 years ago, it was leading to that election. And so granted, and I'm talking domestic United States, I'm not talking Maine, and I'm not talking global. I'm trying to put this in a national perspective.
Yeah.
So there's a reason why there are many reasons why Donald Trump was elected president, and one of them was a fierce reaction to Barack Obama being elected twice as president. And there was a lot of the country that had a very strong reaction to the fact that a Black man was voted twice as president. And so the backlash of that is very apparent. That resulted in a massive change of how some people saw the world. And I think when you just sort of scroll through all the pictures of the presidents of the United States, you know, the 43 before that were all old white guys, and then all of a sudden, you know, here's this other face. And so that was definitely upending things. And then as Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump ended up in the final stages, what became very obvious and was taken out from the shadows, and shadows for some, and for many of us, it was never a shadow, was the level of sort of deep-seated misogyny that exists in human beings. From there, once he was elected, he made it a point to stoke the fires of a lot of people who are very much interested in an America that they perceive as being an older version. And so change was very threatening to them, and you can see from the numbers what that resulted in. I go back in context for this because when we started Time's Up, it was because of Harvey Weinstein's criminal behavior being made public, and so it was an opportunity with Tarana Burke and Me Too to be able to show the world that women are not going to put up with this anymore, that we're going to work together to make sure that workplaces, in the case of Time's Up, that workplaces are safe and dignified, and that whether you are in the fields or the factory floor or the boardroom, that you are safe from being harassed or assaulted. And so that was a big change, that people freaked out. Men were now all of a sudden, men were like, oh, I can't be alone with women, and oh my God, they're banded together and we're going to be quote unquote canceled. I just want to say one thing about that, which is, when anybody says cancel culture, I just sort of reiterate that I replace that with accountability.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Just try to do that and see what happens. So that all led to, so now power is destabilized, and now you have, whether it's, people that are interested in systems change, and I think that's what Bernie Sanders spoke to a lot of people about, or AOC or Elizabeth Warren. They're not talking about, sort of like the ones and twos. They're saying the system is broken for all Americans to thrive. And so therefore we have to do an overhaul of the system. And that was, there was an enormous amount of enthusiasm from people about that. And then that led to a global pandemic. And a global pandemic literally put everyone on their butts. Now, every single person has to be afraid for their own health and safety. And now that is the perfect storm that that brought us to 2020. So is it 2020? Yes, of course. But I think we have to look back at what's been happening over the last 10 years to realize, oh, there's a reason how we got here.
Yeah. Oh my God, you explained it. You explained it so well. And also, I really appreciate you really giving us a little bit of the history and bringing us back a little bit prior to 2020 to understand that 2020, that was just the aftermath of what was already in the makes. I have a question from one of my colleagues, one of my alumni from my group. And the question is like, how do you stay true to your values and in a negative situation like this pandemic that happened, but how do you stay true to your values despite all of this that's going on?
So I never forget where I'm from, and I never, and part of the way that I do that is, I mean, my my best friend who lives down the road from me now was my best friend in high school. And so we're both brewer witches, and we both, now live here, and we both call each other on our shit every single day. And that is really helpful. Like a best friend who's known you forever, if you can have that, you're the luckiest person in the world, I think. And I'm not saying that to disregard, my nuclear family, but somebody who's known me since I was 15, and has been through all of this with me, it is a gift and a luxury, and we never take it for granted. So that is one thing that definitely keeps me grounded and keeps me clear-headed. And then I would say the other is I don't, look, I've been in Hollywood for a really long time now, and I'm not going to say that there weren't times when I was a bit younger and a little bit more fabulous that I didn't sort of run a mean game, meaning like I had some fun. Let's be clear. But now I'm an old lady, and I've got teenagers, and I'm grateful for that. But I go to therapy. I'm connected with my parents. I'm connected with my brother. I'm connected with the people who've known me my whole life. And I don't allow the intoxication of the new to replace the steadfast of what is true.
That sounds really, that's speechless actually. to really not let like the new replace the old, replace those values that were instilled in us growing up, or sometimes not, but keeping those values really protected.
And talk about them. That's the other thing. I would just say, like, your values need to be constantly tended. They're a garden. This is not the thing that you let run wild. It is really, it is incumbent upon all of us to decide, you have to exercise those just like you exercise your body. You have to check in about them constantly. And it's hard work. I think this is the other part that I would say, and I'm saying this to I'm saying this to white people. So if, anybody who's listening who is a person of color, please just, this is for white folks. Our privilege of being the dominant culture, and we as white women who have benefited from that in incredible ways, it's our job now to seek less comfort and to actually do the hard work. And that's not easy. It's not easy to do, because on some level, what whiteness does and what privilege does and what the dominance does is say, no, I earned this. I worked really hard. I did the thing. And when you study this, even a little bit, what you find is no matter what, and and women can do it in looking at men and say like, oh yeah, well you're, you can find all sorts of ways that you've been maligned or marginalized or belittled. But the reality is you have no idea what it's like to be a person of color. None. And I say that because white women have got to get to work, because women of color have been having a completely harder road forever. And that burden needs to be shared now if we're going to be in sisterhood. So that is, you can start reading now, decide you're going to be curious, and get ready, because it's hard. And it's hard for you to look at yourself and to admit a bunch of things that you thought were true, which you realized were maybe not so much. Sorry, got lectury there.
No problem. But doesn't this play a little bit a part on education, how we are taught education and how education plays a big role on diversity and inclusion?
Yes, and I would also say the following, education as, this is hard because I'm dealing with this, right, in a myriad of different ways. Yes,
and I think that brings back that curiosity that you were saying, but it comes with education behind that curiosity.
Correct. It's about getting curious and then educating yourself about what's really going on. Because the history books that you read are bullshit. That's the history books you grew up with are they're just, think about it. If women were writing, let's just start with women. If women were writing the history books, we would not have all of our history documented through wars, which is pretty much how all history books are written. It's all about war. And then what happened after the war, right? That's not how women see the world.
Yeah.
So I would be, and the stories that were told and how it's represented and whose stories are being told are all part of that problem. Now we're just starting to understand that now. But you go back, and it's part of the reason why, you can't just read White Fragility and say, okay, I got it. You got to go and do a lot of the work that will, and here's the gift. It's literally like Christmas morning. The gift is, oh my gosh, I get to see the world in a new light. Now, again, to white people, don't look at the people of color and expect them to be your educators. Go do your own work.
Yeah. Alrighty. So with that, I have one more question. And the question is, what is your most important aspect of being a strong advocate or an ally?
The thing that just popped into my head is the opposite of what I've been doing for the last 45 minutes. To shut up, to be quiet and to listen, first and foremost, and then as quickly as possible to make space for other people to get the spotlight, for other people to get the microphone, for other people to be able to share their voices, and to be constantly on the lookout for who hasn't gotten the chance to tell their story or to share their idea or to have their project get front and center. That's my job now. My job is, it's not about me.
Okay.
My job is to use whatever power, resources, chips in the bank, whatever I've got, so that somebody else can do their thing. That, again, I come back to yesterday's inauguration. The fact that Amanda Gordon got to stand up and do her thing, and the grace with which she was celebrated for who she is, was, to me, that is our job right now. How are we looking out for her everywhere? Because she's going to teach us what we need to know.
Yes.
Now, I say all of this. Yeah, go ahead. Please, Fabia.
Oh, no, because my question was going to be like, so what is the vision? Like, how can we help more people like Amanda? Like, how can we uplift what happened yesterday? Because it did. That yesterday was very historical, and it gave me goosebumps throughout my body to actually see her authenticity of who she is being on that platform. She didn't have to be somebody else. So how do we uplift more women right now to be that?
So I would say the following. How are you going to, I'll tell you what I do. Okay. Instead of me telling anybody else what to do, I'm going to tell you what I do. My social media feeds are full of people who don't look like me,
Okay.
who have a different background than me. That's all. That's my Twitter. That's what my Twitter feed is full of, and I do that for a reason. That is how I'm going to hear other voices. And then when I get the opportunity, I'm going to invest. When I meet someone fantastic and I go out of my way to see them in a room, I go out of my way to walk across that room and introduce myself and listen to what they're about. And when they ask, I say, yes, let me help you. And then I put them on whatever version, I'm using showbiz terms, but, I put them on stage. I give them the microphone. But that comes from the first thing, which goes back to like, how am I curious about other people's experiences? And then ask the question, what do you need? They're going to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time is, I need a shot. I need a chance. I need you to put me in the game. I need you to put me in the room. I need a job. I need a recommendation. I need some advice. I need $100, whatever it is. And that is, and after you listen, then if you can't give it to them yourself, is to figure out who can, and then use your network to help them.
I hate to interrupt this. This is Amy, but we're nearing the end of our time. But I I can't help myself. I have a couple of questions too, and one is for Flavia. Actually, I loved the question, Flavia, that you asked Michelle about being a strong advocate or ally. I'm wondering if you have advice from your experience about for people who want to strengthen their allyship or advocacy.
For me, I think it's networking and having programs like Maine New Leaders, because everything that I have worked up to be right now is through networking. It's through all the stuff that I learned, and it's the stuff that I applied. For me, it was what Michelle just said. It's somebody just giving you a hand and saying, here's an opportunity. I will be a reference for you. Do you need help here? And that's what helped me as an African American woman to really show up, is being invited. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense. Flavia, do you have a final question for Michelle?
My final question. Actually, I'll leave you with the final question.
Oh, put me back on the spot. Okay. Well, one of the things that's unique about Maine New Leadership, when you look at leadership programs that are available in Maine, is that we are nonpartisan, and we work really hard to bring in cohorts of young women who come from a diversity of perspectives, who bring a diversity of perspectives to the program, which isn't easy. And in part because of that, one of the values of the program is learning how to engage in civil dialogue and to listen and feel heard with people with whom we disagree. And I'm wondering, Michelle, if you have advice or experience that you can share about how to engage those with whom you disagree.
Sure. So I want to make sure that I say this, because it's pretty clear what my politics are from everything I just talked about for the last 45 minutes. And yet I also want to say this. I raised in a, generationally Republican household, and deep respect for, and I'm talking specifically on political lines for just 1 minute. My talk that I gave when I was at UMO was very specific in saying, what I always carry with me is, being a woman from Maine, are these incredible, Republican leaders, Margaret Chase Smith and, Olympia Snowe and more, who I have, deep respect for, and bravery. I mean, I got my little Margaret Chase Smith bobblehead from NEWL, which I adore. And I would just say, like, that kind of courage and bravery is exactly the kind of stuff that we're talking about today. So yes, I believe that, what I'm actually saying is the same thing. I mean, I talked a lot about race and about gender, but it applies the same thing to value systems, which is we have to be curious about each other's value systems. And that is where deep listening comes from. And I would say the most important thing that I've learned over time is to, like, create a space in between. I feel this way and you feel that way. And I'm going to put a space in between us that is without judgment and all of the other emotional words and feelings. And instead, I'm going to try really hard to put myself in your shoes. I'm going to try on your shoes so that I can see deeply where you're coming from. I'm not just going to listen to you. I'm going to actually try to empathize. I'm going to try to be in your spot. I think that is the differentiator. It's not just about listening. It has to be something more than that, because listening is just sort of like, it's like they say, water off a duck's back. It doesn't stick. Nothing's taking hold. It's only when I really put myself in your shoes am I going to be able to see things differently.
Yeah, totally makes sense. One of the biggest things I will take away from listening to you both today is this idea about relentless curiosity. I love that phrase. I think that way of putting it just makes so much sense, and I thank you for that, Michelle. Thank you both for sharing your wisdom and reflections and advice with us today. If folks want to and don't already know how to stay in touch with Maine New Leadership, you can of course check out our information on the web, on the Margaret Chase Smith Policy Center's website, but we're also active on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and we hope that you will stay engaged with us and in conversation with us. And Michelle, I'm sorry I can't see your face. I wish I could.
I know, I'm so sorry.
But I thank you for being here. We made it work. We made it work. So thank you both. Take care. Yeah.
Same here. Take care, everybody. Please invite me back. I'd love to see everybody sometime. Okay.
Okay. We will take you up on that.
All right.
Thank you very much, Anne.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.